Heyo! Welcome back, everybody, to the Fast Break with Taylor and Jake. It's a little different vibe today as we haven't been on the show. About a year and a half, probably.
It's been about a year. I do remember we did one after I got married, and I haven't been married for quite a year. So it's been a whole season, though. We did not do one during the course of the season at all. So if nobody watches, we understand. We're just doing this for fun, and then if anyone watches, that's great. That's what we started doing it from the beginning from. So
yeah, and we're here. We want to continue going back into it because we did have a blast. We didn't get a lot of views, but that's not really what it's about. It's about just kind of Jake and I hanging out, talking basketball. I mean, it's something we love, something we're passionate about. So we're going to be back, and we got a lot to talk about.
We're not going to get to everything, but that's what we're saying is for.
Yeah. I guess we'll start off with the playoffs. And we're already in the finals. We're in the finals already. We've got Boston Celtics versus the Golden State Warriors this year. Should be a great one. Jake, how are I know your Heat are out, but how have you liked the playoffs so far?
It's been kind of fun to see a few things. I've liked the Heat went on a little run, pushed the Celtics out to 7 games. That was a really good series. Games 4 and 5 kind of sucked for me. You probably felt the same about Game 6. But anyways, it was fun to watch the Heat. As a kind of a Jazz fan, that was a real flame out. That one sucked. There has been a lot of blowouts, which has sucked. To be honest, Taylor, these playoffs have been overall pretty mediocre compared
I would agree with that.
Other ones. They've not been good. There's been way too many blowouts. There's been one overtime game. I don't know if you knew that. There's been one overtime game. I would guess the average win has probably been between 10 and 15 points, somewhere around there. So it was fun seeing at least one upset, the Suns and the Mavericks, which we'll get to later. So overall, to be honest with you, so far, like a 5 out of 10. But I think these finals will be good. So I am excited. Don't get me wrong. I've watched a lot of the playoffs. They haven't been, it's the playoffs. There's always going to be some good storylines, but they've not been the very best that we've ever seen.
Well, and I absolutely agree with you in the fact that I've had a lot of fun in these playoffs. I've had a lot of stress. I've had a lot of fun in these playoffs because obviously the Celtics go to the finals. But yeah, even in the Miami series, there was really only 2 good games, and that was Game 6 and Game 7. The rest were
Game 1 was pretty good.
Game 1 was decent.
Was good.
But then the rest, were kind of blowouts. Even Boston, Game 6, Game 7 against Milwaukee. Boston ended up winning by 13 in Game 6. Then we blew them out in Game 7. Same thing with Dallas and Phoenix in Game 7, which was an absolute disappointing embarrassment for Phoenix. But I want to go on a little bit of a tear, Jake. I'm so sick and tired of two. I'm gonna bring up 2 players. But the first one I'm gonna bring up, I don't think we've ever gone at him. And I think this year we should. And that is Mr. Chris Paul.
I'm interested to hear what you have to say about Chris Paul.
AKA
he's not my favorite, but
No.
He's not my least favorite, I wouldn't say.
He's nicknamed the Point God. I'm like, okay, come on. Point God. Okay, let me back up and see if he fits the Point God material. He's been to what? Maybe 3 conference finals in his entire career. He can't win. He's been to 3 conference finals, been to 1 NBA finals, and after that finals, which they lost, he said, I'm addicted to being in the finals. I'm like, Bro, LeBron James made it 8 years in the league. If
Right.
anyone's addicted to it, it's going to be LeBron.
LeBron's allowed
And-
to say that. The Warriors are allowed to say that.
Right. And then the
Like-
following year, you lose at home in Game 7 again in the conference
Taylor.
finals. So we
Oh,
can't
it
even make
wasn't-
the conference finals again. I'm like, Chris Paul, your stats are second to none. As far as a stats guy, he's fantastic, but he cannot win, and he never will. Chris Paul will never, ever win a championship, ever.
I got to back up just a little bit. You said the Mavericks won Game 7. The Mavericks did not just win Game 7. The Mavericks, just the most embarrassing. I can't think of a time where I've been more shocked at the outcome of a game. Honestly, not necessarily. I mean, we do see blowouts. We see lower seeds beat good teams. We see them blow out good teams as well. But you never expect ever to see that in Game 7 of the playoffs,
At home.
And the Suns they led the league in wins this year pretty handedly, like by a country mile. They were ahead of the Grizzlies. And to be honest, at the beginning of the playoffs, that's who I thought was going to win. I thought the Suns were going all the way. At least to the finals. I never said I think they'll win, but I said I think they'll get there. And they got embarrassed in Game 7 of the second round by a team with one bona fide superstar and a bunch of solid role players, two good players, I would say, in Dinwiddie and Brunson. And the rest are just rotational guys that you could pick up any offseason.
Well, the funny thing about Dallas, too, watching them against that Golden State series, I thought it was hilarious after game 4, when the Mavericks were down 3-0 and they ended up winning that Game 4. Reggie Bullock. Okay. Reggie Bullock has no room to talk. But here's Reggie Bullock, like, saying in the post-game interview, we're not going to lose another game. I'm like, bro, offensively, you can beat anyone. I honestly agree I honestly think Dallas has one of the best offenses in the terms of three-point shooting with Brunson, Dinwiddie, Doncic, Bullock, I guess. And if Tim Hardaway's healthy,
On the right shooting night.
But their defense, they have not one defender. I mean, Bullock is okay, great. He'll guard their point guard. But, like, they have no defense. And the term defense wins championships has rung true every single year that has ever existed. Like,
it's true. It's very true.
I mean, there's a reason Boston and Miami were fighting, is because they have the number 1 and number 2 defenses. Golden State, a great defensive team. Like, Dallas, I'm sorry, but they had no chance. You could have sat Curry out for the whole series, and I think Golden State would have eventually won.
Other than LeBron James Cavalier teams, the Celtics and the Heat, I don't know this for sure, but I'm pretty confident saying this. It's going to be the Celtics and the Heat more often than not in the Eastern Conference Finals. We did have the Bucks last year, but we've seen a lot of Heat Celtics conference finals.
Absolutely.
And that's what the Celtics do, and that's what the Heat do, and it pays off for them. But Taylor, let me ask you, why can't Chris Paul get over the hump?
I don't know. To be honest, I think this team. Let me back up and think about this for a second.
I mean, if there was a year that Chris Paul, the Suns kind of shocked people last year a little bit. I don't know if shocked is the best word, but
surprise,
the year before,
for sure.
Yeah, surprise. I mean, a couple of years ago, they had the first overall pick. They got DeAndre Ayton, right? I mean, that's really a pretty quick turnaround with what they've been able to do. But they made it to the finals last year, and they ran through the league this year. So why aren't they in the finals? Not only who knows who's going to win, but why aren't they competing for a championship? They're not even in the finals. They didn't make the conference finals.
Again, I'm going to be honest with you, Jake. I don't know, because I'm trying to think. Obviously, Chris Paul had a great Clippers squad. I think talent and defense-wise, this Suns squad might be Chris Paul's best team that he's played a part of. I know he had a great Hornets roster, but I think this Suns team with Devin Booker's talent, DeAndre Ayton, and a very young age talent, Mikal Bridges, defensive-wise, I just think this team...
Jay Crowder's been good.
Jay Crowder's been great.
Johnson's a tremendous shooter.
Absolutely. So I don't know what their excuse is. I don't know if they thought going into Game 7 that they kind of fluked Game 6 and they should win, so we're just going to win, I guess. I don't know. There's no excuse for it, but I'm sick and tired of all these Chris Paul, best point guard in the league. He's a regular season player. He's a regular season player. He'll never show up in the playoffs, and he never has and never will. I'm sorry, but I'm done with all this Chris Paul conversation.
Right. I think what has happened to him a few times in the past. I think the best example of this was the Warriors and Rockets series a couple years ago, where he couldn't play Game 7. If you were to ask a Chris Paul fan, someone who is maybe a little blind by their love for Chris Paul, they would I would guess that they would say injuries. They would say, well, Chris Paul's never been healthy enough to get there. And I mean, sure, that makes sense, but it doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, when he retires and he makes the Hall of Fame and he's 4th or whatever in all-time assists and 3rd in steals, 12 all-star, whatever it is, no one's really going to care, because I've really come around to this idea a whole lot more this season than I have I think really since the start of this season, since we did our last podcast, that the best ability is availability.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, Jimmy Butler wasn't healthy games probably
3 through 6, I would say 3 through 5.
Yeah. I mean, throughout that series, I mean, I think he's probably having some sort of knee procedure done, and he said after Game 6, I think it was like 47 points, 9 rebounds, 8 assists, 4 steals. Just literally the best game of his career.
Right, absolutely.
Obviously not his healthiest. They said, what? Why did you do this Game 6? Like, how are you doing this away, facing elimination, momentum all towards Boston? And he said, Dwayne Wade sent me a text and said, hey, bro, you got this. Knee hurts. Nobody cares. Just go out and get it done. So Chris Paul, I don't really care. Now, Jimmy Butler, they didn't get to the finals this year, so you can't even say that. I mean, yeah, he wasn't healthy, but it didn't get him there. Just the same thing that has happened with Chris Paul. So availability is the best
I absolutely agree.
Best ability. So maybe that's true. Maybe the reason he hasn't won a championship is because of health, but he's had healthy years and he's had good teams and he's never gotten there. So I think that just goes to show he's a great player, but he's not an all-time great. I don't know if you can you say that about someone who hasn't won a ring? I don't know.
I don't know. I did forget, honestly, when I was talking about his best teams, I did forget he actually played for Houston. I don't know how I forgot that, but he played for Houston. But
it was pretty short, honestly.
It was.
It seems like it was just the blink of an eye.
But I mean, I absolutely agree. I mean, you look at these players who were injured every other game, and their team loses. You wonder why? Well, that's why. But
I could see Chris Paul. His only shot at his ring is if he takes a minimum deal when he's 40 for whoever's the best team at the time, Boston, Milwaukee, Golden State, whoever, and coattails his way to a championship.
Yeah.
Or he ends up being the coach someday, and I could see him being that. He's very tactful. He knows the game like crazy. Like, he's always pointing out these little rules. There was one time, I can't remember who they were playing. It was the Warriors or Timberwolves or something. And someone came into the game with their jersey untucked, and that's apparently a delayed game foul or a technical foul, something. And he calls it out, and it's like, who thinks of this? Like, Chris Paul's one of those guys that I think he's got like the basketball IQ to be a good coach. So maybe he'll get it that way, but it's not as a starting point guard.
Respect-wise, because I'll be honest, I don't have much respect for Chris Paul. I think I won't get into that, but I don't have very much respect for Chris Paul. But respect-wise, if he is to ever win a championship in any form, I hope it's from a coach standpoint and not, like you said, just tagging along on the best team. Because I don't think that'll even go noticed. I mean, if you have Chris Paul, a top 5 point guard, goes in his entire career, doesn't win a championship. Oh, his last season goes to Milwaukee, comes off the bench, plays 16 minutes a game, wins the championship. It's going to go unnoticed, and it's not even going to help it's not going to help him in any capacity. And I just,
It'd kind of be because Carmelo was on the Lakers when they got their bubble championship, right?
No, he wasn't.
Was
he still is ringless.
Okay, I got you. For some reason,
he's going to remain ringless for his career.
Right. But when you see those players that they're at the end of their career and they get one, people are like, oh, they finally got one, and I'm like, did they?
Yeah.
Though?
So, right. Well, like Dwight was on that Lakers squad.
Right. He could. He contributed, but it wasn't quite the same as if he would have gotten one, 10 years ago with Orlando.
Like if Vince Carter, I'm really glad Vince Carter never won a championship towards the end of his career, because if he was to win one, it should have been when he was good. But another player I would. Oh, what?
No, go ahead.
Oh, I'm going to get into a big topic. So what were you going to say?
I was gonna see if you're ready to get into these finals.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Okay. All right. No, let's talk about there's someone else you want to go over. Let's go over that first.
I'll just go over really quick, and I'm sorry, it's happening again, and that's Mr. Ben 10. I mean, what a disappointment! What a disgrace! You sign, or you get traded to the Brooklyn Nets. You have a great team. Personally, I think Ben Simmons, I don't know this yet because he hasn't played because he's a baby. I think Ben Simmons fits in the Brooklyn Nets system better than James Harden did. So honestly,
that's fair.
I was nervous. Obviously, Brooklyn was favored to beat Boston the very first round. They were projected to beat Boston, and Boston swept them. No thanks to Ben Simmons. But Ben Simmons was cleared to play in Game 4. He says, I'm playing Game 4. Last second, drops out of Game 4 and doesn't even come to the game. I mean, the game is in
Was
Brooklyn.
He not even there?
He wasn't even there.
Oh, my God.
And I'm like, Ben, it's in Brooklyn. You don't have to travel anywhere. You don't have to get up off your couch very much. It's at home. Support your gosh dang team. If they lose, which they did, doesn't matter. Go support them. Quit being a baby. You're healthy. He was cleared to play. So I'm like, and then, did you hear what? And I don't even know if this is true. I just saw, where did I see it? I'm trying to remember if it was a reliable source. I don't want to say something if it wasn't reliable. But did you hear what Ben Simmons said about Zion?
No.
Again, I have no idea if this is a reliable source. I didn't go too much into it because I don't like looking at Ben Simmons because I just don't care about Ben Simmons. But he was talking about, why are y'all getting mad at me for missing the game when Zion's New Orleans eating ass hasn't played either? He's like, but y'all are hyping him up like crazy. I'm like, Ben,
you're both the worst. It's like you guys are both at the bottom of the barrel. So if that's true, who knows if it is.
I have no idea if he even said that, but
dude,
sounds like something he would say.
Yeah. It sounds like something he would at least think. Like, I feel like Ben Simmons just thinks that he's already made it. He went to the NBA. He won Rookie of the Year. He made a few All-Star games. He made an All-Defensive First Team, and was in consideration for Defensive Player of the Year.
Uh-huh.
So I just don't think he cares. I really just don't think he cares at all.
I absolutely agree.
And I feel like that's going to bug his teammates, especially Kevin Durant in particular, because Draymond Green on his podcast said Kevin Durant, that is his number one thing in his life, is playing basketball. That's not all NBA players thinks. In fact, it's probably most of them. It's not. A lot of them have, families, or they're there for the paycheck. And that's why I think Ben Simmons is there. The paycheck. I do not think he cares at all about showing up for his team, about, when you get paid a paycheck, and not just a paycheck, I mean a small fortune every game, I would think if I was Ben Simmons, I think I owe it to these guys who took a chance and traded away James Harden, a former MVP, and I need to do what I can to show up, even if he's still got issues with his jump shot. I mean, you're still like you're a 6'10" Olympian athlete, right? Like
Right.
you're so far ahead of most even NBA players physically that it's just wasted talent. And I hate to see wasted talent like that.
Yep.
And I would not be surprised, Taylor, if Ben Simmons is out of the league in less than 5 years.
I absolutely agree.
I would not be surprised whatsoever.
No, and you've mentioned it before. The only reason he's in the league is because of his height. I mean, you can find anyone who can pass the ball and defend. I mean, you got Marcus Smart, Drew Holiday. All these guards are so good defensively nowadays. But what makes him so gosh dang different and special is that he's 6'10". I mean, he can handle the ball. I mean, he's a point guard. He handles the ball. He can pass the ball like incredible. He's got so much potential and so much talent. And you said it. He's wasting it. He has not gotten one lick better since his rookie season.
No, he's the exact same player. He's the exact same player. In fact, I think his shooting percentages, like free throw wise and stuff, I wouldn't be surprised if they're worse. They may not be, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were at all. So, Ben Simmons we'll
keep bashing you. We'll keep bashing him.
A dedicated episode where we'll go off even more. I kind of got to get back into it. I've almost forgotten about it, thinking about other things. But people just, one thing this playoffs has done is continued to reveal that people are who we thought they were. Mm-hmm. So that's what the playoffs do. So, all right, Taylor, I think we got to get into it. Your Celtics are in the finals against the Golden State Warriors. Game 1 is tomorrow in San Francisco at the Warriors' place. How do you think this finals is going to go?
I just have to start off, Jake. My heart stopped for 2 seconds when Jimmy Butler hit that three. Shot that three. I kid you not, Jake. I was at my in-laws' house. We were having a bunch of birthday parties, and my nephew graduated, so we're kind of like celebrating that. And I'm like, okay, the game is on. But I didn't want to like be invested in the game because I wanted to be with family. But I'm like, I gotta step away. And everyone kind of left, and it was just kind of me and my wife and my in-laws were kind of there. And my wife was talking with her parents. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go in the bathroom and finish this game out. I go in their bathroom with probably about a minute and a half left, and I see Marcus Smart miss. I think it was 4 threes in the final 2.5 minutes, and I'm shaking like nuts, and he misses the layup, and Jimmy Butler has it. And he pulled up for that three, and my heart stopped. But kudos to Miami. They gave us a heck of a run. It was, like Jake said, took it to game 7, which honestly, I didn't think it was going to go 7.
Oh,
but Jimmy Butler went absolutely God mode in game 6, dropping 47 points. Not just 47 points, 47 points off of, 16 combined points from the last 2 games or something?
The previous 2 games, he had 16, I believe.
And whops out a 47 piece. I mean, so I didn't expect it. I thought Boston was going to close it. I thought Boston should have won in either 4 or 5, took it to 7. So, I mean, that's what it's about. That's what you like to see competition. You like to see competitors compete.
Oh, dude, I was like, this isn't the Miami Heat. I mean, it was probably after game 5 when they'd given up, I believe it was 3 in a row. And there was just no heart. They were shooting worse than stormtroopers. I was just like, this isn't Miami Heat basketball. This isn't what we do. I mean, we don't win every year. I know that. We haven't won for quite a few years, but we at least we always compete. That's what the Heat do. I feel like the Heat usually get I feel like the team does better than what you would expect from those individual players. And they
Right.
did not do that at all, games 4 and 5.
Uh-huh.
And those two games, I think, lost them the series. I think Boston is a better team, anyways. So I'm really not mad about the fact that they lost the series. Like, it doesn't make you happy, but you can't be too
Right.
upset about it. So, sometimes the better team usually wins. That's how it usually goes. And
Mhm.
the Celtics were the better team. Um, but after games 4 and 5, I was like, I was mad at the Heat. It's how I feel when I watch a Utah Jazz series. Uh, but they turned it around. They got contribution, and they remembered how to shoot and play a little defense.
Uh-huh.
They gave it all they could, and that's all I can ask for. So, and
Yep.
oh, by the way, if anyone is actually like mad about that shot from Jimmy Butler, I don't think you should be, because
Mm-mm.
I think they were on their last legs. You're down by 15 seconds. It's like, you know what? If they go to this overtime, I mean, the Celtics have won by far majority of the quarters of this series. So just, you got to go for the win sometimes. He was on fire. He hit that exact same shot earlier in the game. I don't know if you saw that, but just a walk-up three. And you know what? He could have gone for a contested layup at the rim against
Uh-huh.
Horford. And, Al Horford's not he's not Rudy Gobert, but he's no slouch at the rim.
Right.
So honestly, I wasn't mad at all. It's in the
Well,
best player's hand, and you went for it, and you at least gave yourself a shot, because that's the worst, is when teams dribble it down and they don't even give themselves a shot.
and if my coaches tell you, if you watch Al Horford, he's not in position to guard that three. He's backpedaling, where James Harden, where the heck did that come from? Jimmy Butler stops. What's Al Horford to do? He's walking backwards. He can't just stop, walk up to. So it's
Right.
heat of the moment. Adrenaline's pumping. You're home. So if you hit this shot, you're home. You're in. It's one of those things where you're looked at as a failure if you miss it, or you're a hero if you hit it. It's a really hard situation to be in. Good luck. It was a great look. Like, I don't care if people say it was a great look. That's why my heart stopped. If it wasn't a good look, I would be like, oh, he's going to miss the shot.
Right.
I genuinely thought he was going to make that shot.
Right. I mean, you make a decision and you go for it, and he went for it, and sometimes you win.
And I'm sure he sticks by it too.
Right. You win some, you lose some. I mean, he said after the game, he's like, my teammates, they said they were cool with it. My coaches were, so I'm living with it. I gave it all I could, and I said, you know what? True, he did. So
it's not like he pulled up from 35 feet.
Right. No, I mean, he was a foot behind the line, and like I said, it was the exact same shot that he'd made earlier in the game.
Yeah.
So that time it just didn't go in. So I was proud of this. The season the Heat had, they exceeded my expectations. I didn't think they would be the top seed in the East. I wouldn't have been too surprised by them going to the conference finals, but I wouldn't have expected them to win, and they did. Uh-huh. So,
Right.
But the finals, Taylor, Warriors Celtics. What do you think? What are you thinking?
I'm done second guessing myself. I was fairly confident with Boston and Brooklyn. I wasn't confident enough to say they were going to sweep. I was fairly confident saying Boston was going to win 6 and 7. After watching that series and the way they defended Kevin Durant and because Kyrie Irving had a 39-point game one. And then after that, completely disappeared for 3 games. Completely disappeared. Kevin Durant, Jason Tatum, not known as a elite defender, is like now an elite defender. He like locked down Kevin Durant. Second round, I was a little disappointed. I think a few unfortunate and unlucky possessions pushed the Bucks series to 7 games. I mean, Al Horford's tip in I think game 3 or something like that was waved off because it came after the buzzer. Would have sent the game to overtime. I think there was a few unfortunate things that pushed it to 7, but I was fairly confident going into Milwaukee. But then I honestly lost a lot of confidence when the Bucks went up 3-2, and Tatum delivers a 46-point game 6. They end up smashing them in game 7. And both of those series, Boston was favored to lose. Boston was favored. I think it was about half and half for Boston and Miami, favor-wise. But I'm done. You know what? I don't care how good Golden State is. Boston has proved me wrong time and time and time again. I'm sticking with Boston. Honestly, I really like the matchup. I think Boston and Golden State match up very, very, very well. I'm really excited to see how Smart defends Curry, because Curry, despite him having 3 rings, he doesn't really shoot that great in the playoffs. Like if you take a look at his like career highs compared to his regular season career highs, I think his career high in 3-pointers made is like 8. And then like obviously regular season it's like 13, and you see all these 11 3-point games, 12 3-point games. You see all these just outstanding shooting games. But then when it comes to crunch time, Curry they defend him a lot better, and then you can kind of see where his weaknesses are. So I think Smart's going to do that. And if Klay Thompson doesn't go off every single game, I really am liking Boston's chances. I know the whole world is thinking Golden State. Once again, Boston's counted out right now, but I really think I've got a great feeling today.
So do you think Steph Curry is Steph Curry like that kind of guy who, like, does he have that it factor, do you think, where if say his team is down a game in a series and they need a 40-point game, they need a LeBron game 6 at Boston, a Jimmy Butler game 6 at Boston, do you think he's that kind of guy who can go out and he's going to will his team to a win? Because we know he can shoot, but does he have like that takeover game mentality?
Regular season, sure. But again, playoffs, I don't know.
I think that's what we're going to find out these finals, because 2015, their first finals, Andre Iguodala wins finals MVP. And a lot of people say he shouldn't have, but, that's a long time ago. He did. And Steph Curry's had really great teams, but I don't think this is not the best Warriors team that's been in the finals. Mm-hmm. This is the Warriors team that's been to many finals before. So if you want to go experience, we obviously know which way is that going. That's going to the Warriors. Right. Steph Curry's got that experience. But I think this is the finals where we find out for sure if Steph is like that guy, and
for sure.
It's kind of crazy that we're this far into his career and we still don't really know if he's like that guy who's like, okay, like, I don't care what my team does, I am getting this team across the finish line. Yep. You know what I mean? Because I agree with you. If Steph's not going to be that guy, I think this is very 50-50, maybe even in favor of Boston. Mm-hmm. Because that old saying, defense wins championships, and we've talked about it already, is like really true. It's incredibly true that the teams with the best defense usually wins the finals. And now an interesting thing, I heard from another podcast that the Celtics were the best defensive rated team the last 41 mm-hmm. games of the season. Golden State was the best defensively rated team the first 41 mm-hmm. games of the season. So we could see some pretty great defensive matchups. I really think
absolutely.
We will. The thing for me is I don't know if Boston has that team scoring punch.
Uh-huh.
Tatum does. I think Tatum can give you 35 on any given night. But I just don't know if the rest of the guys are there quite yet. Whereas mm-hmm. I think if you need that breakout game from Klay, he could give it to you. Even Wiggins has been pretty good these playoffs.
Wiggins has been awesome. Has been awesome.
Jordan Poole's no scrub. Jordan Poole's a freaking good sixth man. So absolutely. That's why if I was a betting man, I'd probably go with the Warriors. I've heard some people say Warriors in 4 or 5. I just think there's no way they sweep. I highly doubt Warriors in 5. I'd probably go Warriors in 6, but I don't know, man. I'm not gonna totally count out your Celtics. I'm not.
So according to the regular season, they split the regular season. They played 2 games, and Boston in the game they won. I think they won by like double digits, by like 15 points. Like Boston really handed it to them. In the game Golden State won, I think it was by like 3 or 4 or 5. It was a very close game in the game Golden State won. Boston is the only team, I don't know if you knew this. All 5 of Boston's starters received all NBA defensive votes. Marcus, Jalen, Tatum, Horford, and Williams all received at least one all defensive team vote. I mean, they're the only team to do that this year. I don't know about all time. I just heard about this year. I'm sure that's not all time. But I think they've come this far. They've got their goal. Golden State's won it. I mean, Boston's got nothing to lose right now. Their backs are against the wall. And in these entire playoffs, when Boston's back has been against the wall, they've delivered. And I will say, there's no way in heck Golden State is sweeping. If Golden State wins this series,
no, it's not happening.
They're not sweeping. The NBA needs money, so you can if you're a rigged kind of type person, the game is going 6 or 7, or the series is going 6 or 7. From a fan standpoint, I agree. I still think the games are going to go to either 6 or 7, but my Celtics keep surprising me. I mean, Ime Udoka, I wasn't sure about him at first. Obviously, he worked under Greg Popovich for a while, and that coaching is very similar, and I'm loving that. So you know what? I mean, this team surprises me. I'm picking Boston.
All right. So, and this is interesting. So JJ Redick threw this out on. I think he's on First Take. If you look at this, I don't know if you'll be able to see it. Let me try and show you. So okay. Boston's NBA Finals, NBA title right there. This is probably backwards.
I can see it.
That basketball power index, which is basically just runs, I think, 10,000 simulations, or no, the season is simulated 10,000 times. So ESPN's basketball power index, take it for what it's worth, gives Boston an 86.2% shot to win the finals. That seems a little suspiciously high to me.
So what are they basing these simulations on?
I have no idea.
Because I've heard of people running simulations on 2K. And if they're basing this off of 2K, first of which, that's terrible. That's terrible data. First of which, that's terrible data. Second of which, you cannot physically miss with Stephen Curry in 2K. If you play a game with the Warriors and you lose the game, you should not be playing NBA 2K. Like that, they've rigged the Warriors to the max. But I will say, every time I've watched, we talked about in previous podcasts like Click Productions, King of the Fourth Quarter, they do YouTube's channels where they do these 2K simulations, and every single year Boston ends up in the finals. And I'm like, what the heck? Why can't that happen in real life? So, again, I'm hoping they're not using their 2K simulations as their simulations, but I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah, so that's interesting. What matchup do you think is most interesting?
Tatum and Wiggins, in the sense of Tatum and Wiggins have very, very similar body styles and body types. Both about 6'8", 6'9", very lengthy players, very good, both very, very good defenders. I think that's going to be the key matchup, because I honestly think Smart's going to do his job on Curry. He's not going to shut Curry down. You cannot shut Curry down. Well, I don't know. I just said earlier that he kind of chokes in the past. But regardless, he's like LeBron. The reason Iguodala won Finals MVP is because he locked LeBron James down. LeBron still averaged like 35 points a game. That's locking him down. And I think that's going to be the same with Steph. And I think Marcus is going to do his job on Curry. I have no lack of confidence in Smart's ability to defend Curry. I think Jaylen Brown's going to do a great job guarding Clay if that's who he guards. And I think it's going to have to be Wiggins to have to win a lot of these games, or at least have some big moments. And He's in the same situation as Boston. First time in the finals. Can he do it? Can Boston do it? You know?
Right. I could very well see that being the determining matchup for sure. Wiggins and Tatum. So now I could actually see them throwing different guys at Tatum. I could see Klay Thompson switching per possession, and I could see Draymond Green switching, just for the sheer fact that Klay's a really good perimeter defender.
Yep.
Draymond is really like scrappy, will get under your skin like nobody's business. He'll be as physical as he can be with
for
Tatum. Sure. And then Wiggins just has that, like, you're not going to beat Wiggins' athleticism, right? He's one of the most athletic guys in the league. So I think there's a very good chance that Golden State switches quite a bit. I think every pick is probably getting switched, except I think they'll probably try and hide Steph Curry as much as they can, stick him on Marcus Smart because he's mostly a three-point shooter anyways. But yeah, I'm really interested to see the defense in this finals, and it's not something I think you usually hear about finals. Is I'm excited to watch what happens defensively, but I really am. I think it'll be really interesting to see how like the teams adjust. Like how does Udoka do in his first finals as a coach? How does Steve Kerr do as sixth finals? You know, they're both good coaches. They really are. So I think it's going to be. I think this is going to be. I could so easily see this going to 7 games. I'd be shocked if it goes anything less than 7. To be honest with you, actually, I know I said 6, but well, maybe 6. I don't know. I don't know. It'll be good though.
It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be, and I agree. I mean, yeah, you typically see. I'm excited for this offensive display. It's not going to be a huge. I can tell you right now, they're not going to be scoring 120, 130 points every. They're not. It's just not going to happen in this series. Both of these teams are too dang good defensively to allow that. It's going to be. I mean, even in the Heat and Celtics series, these games
they were incredibly low scoring.
Especially in today's NBA, you average about 110. The best team maybe 118 points a game. That's ridiculously high. And Boston and Miami are in the 80s and 90s with seconds to go in a game 7. Like, defense is going to be the factor, and that's the thing is I doubt we're going to get a ton of offense. I mean,
here's the thing that this is to me what gives Golden State the edge, because it's not their defense that gives them the edge. I don't think that. I think their averages are fairly on par, to be honest with you, most of the time. But the thing is Golden State, like, they just go, we saw this against Memphis, like, they just go on these runs where they just pull ahead and then they slam the door and they say no.
Yeah.
And their crowd goes like freaking crazy. I mean, you can hear it through the TV, and just nobody shifts momentum one way, I feel like, faster than the Golden State Warriors.
Yep.
And it's just crazy how they do that. So if Boston limits those, they take them at least to 7 games, because they'll get them a few times. They will. They'll beat them.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They could still win on the road if Golden State doesn't shoot well. But to me, that's what gives the edge to Golden State, is just like that experience and the ability to just go on these runs that are just the most ridiculous things I've ever seen. So I'm just hoping for a good finals. I don't really have a dog in this fight. I just like good basketball, and I think that's what we'll get.
One of the things I'm really happy about too is, and this is coming from a Celtics fan, is the praise that Golden State is giving Boston. I mean, Draymond Green came out today this year saying, someone said that Marcus Smart is the guard version of Draymond, and Draymond obviously picked Boston. Draymond said, "We're playing Boston." I'm sure that upset a lot of Heat fans. I think that's what made the biggest motivation, besides that Dwayne Wade text, to help Miami push the game to 7. Right. I mean, Udonis hasn't even said, "Draymond, you broke the code."
Yeah. Whatever
the frick that means. Why is that even a saying in these playoffs? Like, what code are you talking about? But I'm going to say Boston steals game 1 on the road.
Are you? That would be something. That would be something. I would not expect that, Taylor. To be honest with you,
I just think Golden State's have too much. They've had like a week and a week and a half off. They're rested up.
That's true.
But I think Boston
sometimes that hurts.
They can.
I mean, Golden State's had a lot of time to sit and watch, basically. And
For sure.
Boston, they finished up their game 3 days ago, late on Sunday. So they may have gone back to Boston for maybe a day, basically just get like some treatment done, get your massages and cryotherapy, all the stuff that those NBA players do. And then I'm guessing they were on a plane no later than Tuesday. And then they had media and they've got practice. So they're keeping they've had like really probably one rest day. I mean, they've been busy. So and you know what? The scary team is the one that has nothing to lose. Right. Golden State has that, that Golden State dynasty to uphold, I guess you could say. And they've been down a couple of years, but that was just like, they're right back up to where they were, So the scary team is the one with nothing to lose. So that's why Golden State should be a little bit, they should not overlook Boston at all. And I'm sure they're not. I'm sure they know, these kids here, they've got something to prove. And I'm telling you, I know this is Boston's first. It's not going to be, with these guys, not obviously all the time. First with like Tatum and Brown, kind of that core, but it's not going to be their last. So if anything, worst case scenario, they lose. They play a great team and get incredible experience for the next couple of years. Yeah. Well, is there anything you wanted to gloss over about the season? I think we're probably about 40 minutes in. It doesn't say a time, but 45 minutes in.
No, I think our next episode we'll touch more on the season. Of course, dive into the 2 or 3 whatever finals games they've done. But I think that's it for this. We just kind of wanted to get you guys back in the action. We wanted to get Jake and I back in the action, pick up where we are, at least in the regular season, then kind of come back to it and talk about some crazy things that have happened in the season, some highlights, awards, all that kind of stuff. But it's good to have you back, Jake. It's good to be back. Hopefully we can continue to do this. I honestly don't even know why we've taken this much time off. There is honestly no reason why we've taken this much time off, to be honest. Jake got married, he moved away, but he's still maybe 20 minutes away. It's not a far commute for either of us. So
we can, assuming this works, we can always, just jump on for, that's kind of the nice thing about Zoom is just say it is 15 minutes away, but you got to go there and back. So that's, it's just it's just an extra something that I think is what kind of got us out of rhythm in the first place. But if we can't do it in person, we'll try and at least do a Zoom. I think this works out just fine. So yeah.
Alrighty. Well, again, when we post this, if you guys watch it, thank you guys so much for sticking with us. I know you guys have probably been. I know we've actually had a few people reach out and be like, "Hey, you can do podcasts? You can do podcasts?" I think so, and I keep telling them, I know we want to. They're like, why haven't you? I don't know. I don't know. But,
so the one thing about Zoom is it's not, unless there was a way that we could get the audio and then put it on our podcast, the actual podcast. I'll see if we can do that, but I don't know if we can. But at least this is going back up on YouTube, which is where I think the people that did watch us, I think is where they got it anyways. I don't think too many people listen to our podcast, but if I can figure out a way, I'll try and see if we can get this audio and put it back on Spotify and Apple and all that stuff. So, all right, I'm going to end this recording and we'll see you guys next week.
Okay, see you guys.